Well, hello, Miss Nicole. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you chatting with me for a little bit. I am, I am always looking for interesting people who I can talk to about new and upcoming topics in the ecosystem. And you and I work together. I'm very blessed that I get to work with you currently at Silverline, which is the consulting firm that I work with. But we actually met prior to that.
We did.
We met in Chicago. I was able to meet you. I actually got sent over because I had chosen insurance as my kind of vertical of choice. There was this, this new velocity in Salesforce for industry insurance that I got introduced to, and they sent me into a training course there. And that's where I met you. I guess how can you talk a little bit about how long you've been with the velocity world and kind of your background and how we ended up there?
Yeah, sure. So my background comes from computer science. So I graduated some 20 years ago and started in the computer science field, and then spent 10 years doing Microsoft, and then the last 10 years doing Salesforce, and particularly Velocity now almost 4 years. And then I got introduced to, I was started with communications on the communication side of Velocity. And then the insurance piece came up, very interested on the insurance side. And so I got sent to the training, which then I met you, and we sat and we laughed through that class and we worked through the modules. We were like, what? How do we do this? How do we get this quoting to work?
Oh, the quoting. And I think that I searched like 30 minutes for a little comma in the JSON that, that I couldn't find. And there was like 5 people searching for a needle in the haystack to make that, to make my quote engine work. But eventually it worked. It worked. And we got to go to a Cubs game in Bonn over old style beer, I think, and
a hot dog, I think, too, or something.
And of course, you have to have a hot dog at Wrigley Stadium. So I'm just so glad that and blessed that I've been able to meet you and now and work with you and under you. I think that one of the items that you have recently posted on LinkedIn was your camp methodology.
Yes.
And I've noticed as I've been, learning and getting myself up to speed with Velocity, Salesforce Industries now, and I've been delivering Salesforce projects for years. I've also been delivering, multiple clouds of Salesforce. I've got sales and service and marketing cloud and e-commerce and all of the other ones. And as Velocity has come in, I think that, you and I got put on a project together and we were like, how do we gather requirements for this? How do we go through, like, how does this method, fit into our method and our current methodology and Salesforce's methodology that you learn when you are going in to implement software. And I know that it sounds kind of cliche that it's just like, well, it's just agile, so that's fine. But I felt like there's definitely some nuances, and I was really interested to kind of just get to know your camp a little bit. I think that's what you call it.
Yes.
And when you posted it out there, I was very intrigued, and I can't wait to actually start using the methodology in my own projects going forward. But just kind of wanted to pick your brain around where it came from and then what it is.
Nice. So camp originally came from, I was asked to kind of help explain how I deliver on projects and how I go about the thinking, and particularly around projects that as consultants we deliver. And so where we have clients and we have scope that's been identified. And so we really have to kind of get into this method of containing, or this thought process of containing scope, because we have an SOW or we have something that really outlines what we should be delivering on. Mm-hmm. And that's where CAMP came from. And CAMP actually stands for Contained Agile Methodology Process. Okay. And so when you think about it, obviously contained is to control, to put some sort of restraint, control around it. And then agile is to be able to move fast. The definition of agile is to be able to move fast. Methodology is just a set of actions that you do. And then a process is obviously steps to take you through it.
Yeah.
And so when you put that all together, it becomes camp. And so I ended up doing, and I can share this with you if you want.
Yes, I would love to see it. I think that you've actually created a website. If
I
remember
did.
right.
I created. Can you see my?
I can. Yeah.
Oh, good. So here we have the camp website, my website, and then really, sorry about that, the camp then methodology that comes about. And this also came about two different things. Obviously, Salesforce has a whole theme around, outdoors, and
we're all trailblazers over here, Nicole.
Trailblazers, like the whole trailblazers thing. So it kind of fits into that. I grew up camping. I don't know how many, like we would travel all around the country camping as with my two brothers and us, and we would go. And so, and then putting all of that together and really kind of giving us a thought process around, how to do that, a central point, guidance around it, and really just to help the whole process go. And so that's really where camp came from.
Yeah. And I guess I just want to say, I don't feel as though that this is consultancy based, right? Like, I think that people can take this type of methodology into their own businesses that they use every single day. It doesn't have to be some fancy consultant coming in and doing a big multi-million-dollar project in order for you to use this. This can be used in your everyday, business thought leaders, and as you're kind of going through and deciding what you want for Salesforce. Is that fair?
Correct. And we actually, and my husband and I actually use this process when we went on vacation recently, because it kind of helped put, and how we were planning our vacation, we actually used this past summer, and it really kind of helped us to stay on track throughout our entire vacation, and really set us up for kind of a successful vacation, if you want to say. So, I mean, it really can be used in so many different ways, not just in your projects. I mean, even in your day-to-day, kind of like if you need to plan something that is a little bit more, has a little bit more parts to it, but you want to have it controlled, you want to have it contained. And so, and there's some really fun pieces around camp itself to kind of help keep that containment there. So
awesome. Okay, so I have to know, what was the decision that camp helped you make when you went on your vacation?
So we went through our little steps. So we were deciding on the adventure. So instead of a project, it's an adventure.
Okay.
So we're deciding on our adventure, and we ended up we decided on Michigan, and it was for our 30th anniversary, wedding anniversary. So
congratulations, that's amazing.
Yeah. We got married very young. No. But we wanted to go to Ireland originally for it, and obviously COVID and everything else kind of threw that all out the window, but we ended up going to Michigan. And but it really kind of helped us decide on where in Michigan, there's plenty to do there, and we kind of narrowed down the key areas we wanted to go visit. We had to decide on, what we needed to plan, prep, and pack. And so that's step 3. And it was kind of funny because we kept deciding on how many suitcases to take, like, because we had to go on the ferry to go over to the one island, Mackinac Island. And we're like, well, can we take all these suitcases? Can we do all of this? What can we do? And so that's what really step 3 is about, is like making some critical decisions on your packing, making critical decisions within your, like, if we go through here, not that thought process that not everything can fit into the backpack. Not everything, you can't do everything on your adventure or in your project.
Yeah.
That you have to make some critical decisions even before you start, because a lot of times we go right from discovery right into build, and we don't really make those critical decisions, everything we're going to do, and in reality it can't be done. And so doing these extra steps in there of what we call plan, prep, and pack, and then setting up camp is really these are the toughest, hardest parts of any project. But if you do them well and you do them right, you can be very successful. And even a very key thing within the prep part is really checking your mental state of your teams. So are you really ready to do this project? In our case, when we were ready to go on the adventure, to go on vacation, we had to let go of work. We had to say, okay, this is going to be our time. No computers are coming along. We're going to turn off that. We're not going to do work. And were we mentally prepared to do that? And so that became very critical for us so that we could then enjoy our vacation. And we really did that. And we really even disconnected from work and had a great time.
I can vouch you were not available for a whole week.
Exactly. So it was like, I'm not going to, we are just going to focus on each other. But that, if you have that thought process in your projects, like a lot of times our teams sometimes will be coming, even whether it's client teams or your business teams, that they're coming in and they're not mentally ready for this project. And sometimes, even a couple week delay will set your teams up to be more successful, if you kind of build that into your thought process and to ensure everybody's mentally ready for it.
Yeah. I think one of the other items outside of mental awareness is calendar awareness.
Yeah, right.
The amount of time that a project, whether you've got, hired people on to help you work through the project, or if you're just internally doing it, when you take on a new initiative and you need other people in the business to be able to come and meet with you and give you, their pain points and what they're looking for and what they need to help be successful. If you don't have the time on the calendar to actually get together with them, I've seen it be frustrating as well. Can you think of other reasons why people kind of get frustrated in this time space, other than, mentally being prepared and having the time to actually do it? What are other things that trip up the clients that you've seen or the other people that you've worked with teams?
Yeah, the other big thing is then when we talk about like setting up camp. And so what that means is that, we have our recommended documentation. Some of those things are RACI matrices, which is, who's responsible, who's accountable, consulted, and who needs to be informed. Our communication plans, some of those key pieces that then, again, make sure that everybody knows what they're responsible for, but then also setting up what we call the touch tree. So one of the things, particularly if you ever go backcountry camping, we basically will set up what we call our touch tree. And basically it's literally a tree that's usually one of the larger trees in the area, that then we set up camp and we try to, we are going to stay within that perimeter for this period of time when we're out there camping. And whatever activity we're going to do, so if, let's say, we're going to go canoeing or we're going to go rock climbing, our camp is set up within where that area that we're going to be working. And so, and this is also where we call that, once we set that perimeter up, if there's something we see, and in my case, I call it what I call a butterfly garden. So it's usually something that is potentially like I love to go see butterflies, but if I didn't plan to go see the butterfly garden today, even though I can see it or something I want to go do, but it's not within the parameter of the camp, then I don't get to go do it. I don't get to go do that. I don't get to go visit the butterfly garden because we didn't plan for it. We didn't bring, we didn't bring the right supplies. We didn't bring the right preparation. And a lot of times that's what, setting up that touch tree does is it says, okay, this is the area, this is what we're going to work on for this project. And if you want to do anything else, then we have to either we put it into the backlog, or we have to then really relook at that and say, okay, then do we need to pick up camp and move over there because it must be done and we want to go do that? Or is that something that it has to wait till next trip? Because a lot of times you think about, like, if you've ever been on a vacation and you suddenly see something, you're like, I really want to go do that. I really want to go, I really want to go rock climbing, but I didn't bring any rock climbing gear. You're not setting yourself up for success. Or you want to go canoeing, but all you brought was paddles and you don't have a canoe, and yet when we go into our projects time and time again, we're like, well, this is what we planned for. And yet now we want to suddenly go do something else. And we didn't bring the right tools. We didn't bring the right thought process. We don't have the right business leaders with us. We don't have, some of those things. And so that's what we call like butterfly garden. And that's, and that term can be whatever your team decides on, but it becomes like that. Sometimes you'll hear it like that red flag, or, in this case, it makes it a little bit more fun. It's, no, I'm sorry, Danielle, we can't go see the butterfly garden this time, but we'll do it next time, and it makes it a little bit easier than saying, hey, that's out of scope, basically.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you've seen that, or like even at other vacations you might have had where like, where you went and did something that you didn't have planned and then it didn't turn out very well. You didn't really have a great time. You didn't like it, threw everything of your vacation off,
Yeah, I definitely can think of a couple of times where I've not brought rain gear and gotten stuck.
Right. And that's the other thing. Expect any weather, be prepared for changes. Have you done that?
So you talk about what's in scope and what's out of scope. I know that in the consulting world that normally aligns to some sort of, signed statement of work or something like that. Yeah. How would you describe that to others who might not necessarily have a partner that they have coming in, but if you're working on a Salesforce project overall, like, is that a charter that you're putting out there? Like, how are people defining that from their side if it's not like it's being taken on by a third party of some sort, but it's an actual internal effort? I know that we've gotten a lot of our consultants or our clients that we've turned into doing their own efforts, right? So how do they normally define what that is in a project?
Yeah, generally then you would start with some sort of project charter, going back to your, once you've identified it, part of that identification is generally a project charter that would outline, what are your business objectives? What are you covering for this project? What are you doing? Again, if you don't have that statement of work, then but it's still an internal statement of work. Yeah. Unless it's a true agile, unless you do have an environment that is truly agile, you have unlimited time, everybody's online, everybody knows the system, knows Salesforce, then camp may not be the right solution for you, but it may, agile might be the right solution. Or if you have a very large project, safe framework may be your better solution, because if it's a multi-year project. Where camp kind of fits in is if you have a team that really doesn't know the technology you're bringing in, agile works well. Like if you have teams that know Salesforce really well, who know the business really well and can iterate and do things very often, camp is kind of sits in the middle between safe, which is, these larger projects. Everybody's going to be trained on safe. It's going to be multi-year projects,
Yeah.
whole replacement of system. Then I would use safe. But and then if you've got an ongoing team who's constantly, they're able to iterate, take business requirements, then that's and everybody's familiar. They've been using Salesforce for more than a year. Everybody on the business is using Salesforce. They know Salesforce. They can, when you talk about something, it. Then Agile kind of fits in. But when you have camp kind of fits in between the two, where maybe it's a short-term vision of a project, short-term kind of project, less than a year kind of, and then your business team maybe doesn't know the platform, doesn't know Salesforce, is not really, this is the first time Salesforce is being introduced to them. Also, and then you have your IT team coming in and trying to implement this. This is where camp can really shine, because again, it kind of sets you up to be able to do a first project, get that project out there, get Salesforce out there, and be able to successfully deliver on something without without your team completely not fully knowing Salesforce, and helping everybody kind of start to build, again, have that first kind of adventure, first project, get that going, and then knowing that the next project will be coming. And it also sets them up because so that they're not expecting too much, that as they go on and they're doing this first project, like you do for vacation, you can't go to Disney World. You can't see everything the first time you're there. You can't see everything in 4 days, so you have to make some choices. You have to make some things that say, okay, this is really what is important to us. And this is what we want to see this time. This is what we want to do this time. And so trying to really help you be successful with setting that up at the beginning, so that when you go into build and you go into the other parts, then everybody knows what is expected, and really kind of, they're not going to be disappointed if we can't get everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So kind of what are the remaining, like, I think that you have about 5 or 6 steps left. Well, 4 or 5 steps left. I think there's 8 in total. Is that right?
Yeah, 8 in total.
8 in total. So I guess talk to me a little bit about how, you've set your camp up, you're ready to go. I've got my perimeters. I know that I'm not going to see any butterfly gardens. And if I do, then, we might have to move camp, or I might have to make some really hard decisions on what might have to move out in order for me to be able to do that instead. I want to go to the butterfly garden. I can't go see the waterfall, as an example.
Right.
So then what happens after that? Talk to me a little bit about like the contained portion of the agile methodology.
Yeah. So the big part, so now you're ready, you actually on your, you packed up, you're heading out, you're on your vacation, you're on your project, you're on your adventure. And so some critical things, again, using contained agile. This is where we contain scope. We talk about scope a lot, ensuring that the teams are, we're working towards what we identified earlier. And this is where we really minimize that number of new requirements allowed, that say, we can't do everything. And so having set that up earlier, we understand that. We want to follow our camp rules. So depending on what we establish, so that could be a simple, quality matters, we bring things forward. We know that there's going to be situations where, where we're suddenly going to be, what we call practice situational awareness, making sure what's going on, where you are in the process. You're aware of, like, especially if you're out backpacking, you're aware of your weather, you're aware of what's going on, where you are, so that you don't panic, you don't make poor decisions, you don't, suddenly get, You're not going off and deciding on, hey, this might be a little change, that maybe this requirement, it sounds like it's a little, like, how many times have we been on projects where somebody's like, oh, well, we can put this in. The butterfly garden's just right over there. It's right over there around the corner, and we can get over there. And then we get over there and we realize that, wow, there's a lot more to this. There's like all these other requirements now, and now there's all this other stuff, and we got down this cliff, but now we can't come back up. It's all these little things that then we suddenly get, and we make kind of some poor decisions. Like, again, we're out and we're going to go on a 3-mile hike, but we didn't bring any water. We didn't pack our rain gear. We didn't do any of that stuff. And now suddenly we find ourselves in a very tough situation. And now we got to figure out, how are we going to get back, or what are we going to do? Or we got to call for help, so,
Yeah.
How many times have we done that? And so that's what this kind of helps you to do, is to, hopefully not make those decisions. And even those small things suddenly turn into these big issues, or add like so much more scope to a project that completely derails you from where you were originally.
I've had a couple of those projects in the past. Yeah.
I think we all have, haven't we?
Put this one little feature in, it'll be fine. It's super easy and simple. And then you like actually get into it and realize that it's like, 7 algorithm quotation device, something or other. And you're like, wow, like,
right. Or it touches everything in the business. Like, that little change has now broken everything, or, caused something else to completely fail. And, it's just kind of crazy. So that's what we want to do, is, keeping this, reminding, if you, again, ever been camping for 2 weeks out on the road and you haven't had a good shower and everybody's smelling, nobody's in a good mood, some poor decisions can be made, or, tough, everybody's panicking about everything. And so hopefully, setting a lot of this up at the beginning, just kind of says, okay, wait a minute, we said we weren't going to panic, or we're not going to make poor decisions, or, this is something that we didn't plan for. Let's really put this into the next, we're not going to ignore, we're not going to forget about it, but we're going to put it into the next adventure.
Yeah.
And so that kind of really helps us. So,
awesome.
And then the fun stuff comes, once you get through build, then it's all about, measuring your outcomes, making sure that you have a way to say, what is going to be success for us. And so that's something you identify in the front end during discovery. But now at the back end, now we're going to measure those outcomes, making sure that everybody's trained up, tie up any outstanding work. If it needs to go into the next, we weren't able to do something, but we all agreed that we weren't going to do that. That goes into your next adventure. We can do lessons learned, those kind of things. And so it's really just about packing up and really tying up the project so that it's, we are setting us up for success. And then the last two is really, sharing your adventure. It's important. It surprises me sometimes how many times an organization won't share out their adventure, even with their clients or even internally sometimes. These are some really important projects with companies, and should be shared, should write up that story, should, put it on Instagram. It surprises me. I don't know if you've ever had clients that do that they're hesitant about the change, maybe because they don't feel like it was like perfectly done, like everything was perfect, but it moves you forward. It's still a great project. It was still moved the company forward, but sometimes they don't always feel like it's 100% perfect, so they don't want to share it. And that is really a mistake, I think, time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen clients in the past that, or even honestly, companies that I worked with as an accidental admin prior to coming into consulting,
Yeah.
where we would create really cool stories, but we didn't necessarily tell our partners
Yeah.
or our end clients, or because it was such a such a mess of a trail to get there, right? In the
Yeah.
at the beginning of it all, that we just kind of were like over and done with it when it finally gets there. Or I've also seen where people get very nervous about proprietary stuff, and so they just kind of, I don't know, they get really nervous about sharing their success story because they're afraid that someone's going to steal their idea. When I mean, I get to a certain extent, but I don't know. I think that that's one thing that I really love about the Salesforce Ohana in general, is that
Yeah.
there's so many unique ways that make your business like your business. And that sharing a business process with someone else, or how they got to a certain innovative solution or something, isn't necessarily going to make your business make or break. It's just going to make everyone better. And that's what I've loved about the Ohana for so long. So
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah, and that's partially why, again, I'm sharing this out there, wrote this up, kind of shared it out, that I want people to use it and give me any
Yeah.
feedback that they had, like, oh, hey, how was this successful? What was your adventure like? How did you do it? How did you customize this, personalize this to your company, to your, there's a lot of fun you could have with this within your own organizations, on how you could implement this and how you can really kind of, especially when you're moving to a new platform like Salesforce, where there is, it's not always going to be perfect, and it's kind of ever changing, and there's new things, like you have new ideas and new projects that want to be brought into it,
Yeah.
and really how to share that and how to have successes with it. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
yeah.
I'm super excited to be sharing this out. Thank you so much for spending time with me today to go over this. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to honestly use it myself as well, in some
Yeah.
of my next projects coming up, as well as hopefully we'll be able to get some other people in the community to give you some feedback. So thanks so
That would
much
be
for being
great.
here today. I appreciate it. And I'll make
Thank
sure that all of this information gets like linked out appropriately where needed as well. So
Awesome.
thanks all, and I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.